It is Thursday, March 20th. No, it's not Thursday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday, March 24th. This is the Christian Commute. I'm your host, Seth Dunn, and you're riding with me to the Little League Park, where I'm going to try and watch 2 games at once. I actually have 3 games going on at once. All 3 of my sons are playing baseball. I feel like if this was Bible times, or if Bible times, I guess, were now, it would be, blessed is the man who has 3 sons playing baseball. Because it's a big deal to have 3 sons to begin with. And then they're all playing baseball at the same time. The only problem is I can't watch them all at once. And we actually have 3. We have 3 complexes at Cartersville to play Little League in. And one of my sons is at one of the other complexes, so I can't watch him. But somebody's filming that game. So that's okay. So I may cut this, I don't know, a little shorter than usual. It says it takes 40 minutes to get to the Little League Park from where I am on my exit. I don't know if that's true. I think it'll be quicker. But I don't know that I can fill 40 minutes anyway, because I don't have a full show, because it's been forever since somebody has written into the inbox. If you have a question about Christian theology or apologetics, send it to SethDunn88 at gmail.com. SethDunn88 at gmail.com, or dial 470-315-0875. The Christian Commute is your theological roadside assistance. If you just need any, I guess everybody has all their answers. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, you should have a podcast, Seth." Yeah, I know, lady, I got 1,000 episodes. So maybe over 1,000 episodes, my audience has been saturated and everybody has all their questions asked. I had a memory pop up on the phone today, like a Facebook post, and it was a podcast episode that I had posted. And I think it said that the year was 2017. Have I been at this for 9 years? I guess when it becomes part of your everyday life, you don't think of how long you've been doing it. But maybe this show has been going on for 9 years and there's no more questions to be had. And I'm not going to get a lot of new listeners anymore because I don't do it every day. This show, I think, grew because it was an everyday podcast. But we're just in a new economic reality. The country, the workforce, me, I just don't drive as much to work anymore. It's sort of funny. I moved further away from my house, and then you think the commute would be longer, which it is, but I don't do the commute as much. But that's why I think nobody writes in anymore. So that's that. Hopefully somebody will soon. Today's show title is Israel as a Combatant. Israel as a Combatant. And we're still in Luke chapter 11, 1 through 3 or 12. I thought we finished. Yeah, I think we're in Luke chapter 12, 1 through 3. I want to say we finished 11 last time. We'll get to those things after I plug the Y Project. Do you have friends or relatives, loved ones, who go to a seeker-sensitive coffee bar, go church in the purple haze led by Pastor Electric Blue? An Ayatollah of rock and rolla, seeker-sensitive coffee bar, go church in the purple haze led by Pastor Electric Blue? Yeah, I bet you do. Some friend, some neighbor, some relation. Some of you these circumstances, what circumstances? Go back to chapter 11. Jesus went to eat lunch at the Pharisees' house. And he insulted the Pharisees and insulted the teachers of the law. So now they are trying to figure out a way to trap him, to make him look bad. In other words, they are out to get him. So those are the circumstances Jesus is in. He is going to continue his public preaching ministry. He's going to keep taking questions and preaching sermons. And he knows the Pharisees are going to try to trip him. They don't want to hear what he has to say. They only want to make him look bad in front of people. They want to catch him saying something. And by the way, I want to point out, Jesus is God, so of course he can do it. But do you see the skill Jesus has here? Not only can he preach sermons, but he can take questions and answer them. I think there's a lot of people out there who can preach a sermon, but when they're in a and I'm not saying take questions during your sermons, don't do that. But when they're in a back and forth, they might not be able to answer the question, the objection that somebody has, whether it's a genuine theological question, the trap questions like the Pharisees were trying to ask Jesus. And I bring that up because I mentioned the apologetic task in the last podcast we had. You've got to be able to preach and make a defense and answer questions. We see Jesus do this. Under these circumstances, after so many thousands of people had gathered together that they were stepping on one another, he began saying to his disciples, first of all, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. But there is nothing covered up that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. Accordingly, whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed on the housetops. So a crowd has gathered, once again, to hear Jesus preach. And Luke describes the crowd as so numerous that the people are stepping on top of each other. The crowd is so thick, there's barely any room to move without bumping into somebody else. It's thousands of people. Thousands are gathering to hear Jesus preach. This is as public gets. The first thing he's going to say, he's going to pull his disciples over to the side. First of all, he's going to give them this message. Tell them to beware the leaven of the Pharisees. What is the leaven of the Pharisees? It's hypocrisy. So if you know what leaven does, right? It makes bread rise. Leaven's a good thing. They put leaven in the bread. So why would you eat unleavened bread? The only reason to eat unleavened bread is because you're in such a hurry to get out of Egypt. So you're having a Passover, right? So I'm pretty sure that's the only time they're eating unleavened bread. Maybe they're eating it at some other time. But you want bread to be leavened, right? So leaven's a good thing. So Jesus is not condemning leaven. But leaven affects what? The whole lump. Just a little bit of leaven in bread makes it rise. So if you think of leaven as maybe this is not an exact analogy, like a catalyst. You know a catalyst in science, in chemistry? A catalyst is something that you add to some compound or solution and it makes it do something. So you might have some chemicals together that are benign, but then when you add a catalyst, they do something. It could be a dangerous purpose, like making a toxic gas, or it could be a useful purpose, like making a cleaner. I don't know. But that's what a catalyst is. And leaven's sort of the same way. You can bake bread without leaven, but if you add the leaven, which is yeast, it makes it rise, and that makes the bread better. So who's the bread in this analogy that Jesus is making here? Who's the bread? It's the crowd of people. It is the public opinion. 3 reaction to the preaching, all right? Because there's thousands and thousands of people. And there's the people who gathered to hear Jesus' message. And what's the leaven of the Pharisees? They want to turn that crowd against Jesus. And they want his message to be lost on account of the corruption they are trying to enter into public opinion. They're not there to listen and learn from Jesus. They're trying to negatively affect the people who are trying to listen and learn from Jesus. And their leaven, he says, is hypocrisy. In other words, they're actors. They're pretenders. Think about the Greek connotation of the word hypocrisy, not necessarily how we use it in English. We use it in English to talk about somebody who doesn't practice what they preach. Like if you work for the American Cancer Society and you smoke cigarettes, or you hypocrite. You're promoting against cigarettes, but you smoke. That'd be a good example. If you run mothers against drunk driving, but then you drink and drive yourself, you're a hypocrite. That's how we think. But in the Greek context, the Greek word hypocrite, it just means actors. Okay, that's what they call their actors. And their actors in that day would put on a mask. That's how you would tell what the characters were in a play. The actors would have big masks, and the masks would indicate how their character felt or what their character was supposed to do. Remember, they didn't have microphones, and they didn't have zoom-in cameras. So a hypocrite is an actor. It's somebody who's pretending to be something that he's not. The Pharisees are pretending to be righteous, but on the inside they're unrighteous. And when they get in the crowd and they start asking Jesus questions in front of the crowd, it's going to seem to the people listening like they're genuine, like they're trying to help, like they're leading the discussion. But they're not. They're phonies, and Jesus knows it. So he's pulling over his disciples and letting them in on it. Beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. There's nothing covered up that will not be revealed. So think about this. The Pharisees are plotting amongst each other in secret, in the back room, in the smoke-filled room, backbiting and backwards dealing, right? They're plotting against Jesus. They're not out in front of the crowd saying, "Hey, crowd, I'm trying to trip him up." Not yet. No, that's their secret plan. But Jesus knows their secret plan. He always knows what people are thinking. He always knows their intentions. And he's saying, whatever they're plotting, it's going to be revealed. Whatever they're hiding, it's going to be known. What they're saying in the dark, it's going to be heard in the light. What's whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed among the housetops. So not only does he know the bad dealings of the Pharisees, and he's warning the disciples of it, at the same time, he's letting the disciples know what we're saying is public too. Because the Pharisees, we know, are going to turn the tide of public opinion against Jesus. That's why they're screaming, "Give us Barabbas," when they crucify him. And the disciples of Jesus, they're going to come under persecution as well at a later time through the Pharisees. So the disciples have to be the same people. They are in the inner room that they are proclaiming the gospel in front of people. We can even make applications to this today as Christians. Our public witness is going to, you don't try and keep being a Christian a secret. It's not a secret religion. Your private witness is eventually going to be your public witness. We want to be on the up and up, not phonies like the Pharisees. But he's warning them. He's warning them about the Pharisees and their secret plots and their hypocrisy. And even though it's secret to all the thousands of people who've gathered to hear him preach, we know it now, right here through the pages of Scripture. Alright, let's end the Bible chapter review. Lord willing, we'll be back with you again next week. I think I come to work on Friday. Gas is cheap. Guys, I think I'm going to move to coming to work 2 days a week instead of 3. That's what I think I'm going to do. But like I said, the economy is changing. The work environment is changing. I might move to 2 days, 2.5. We'll see. Oh no! Oh man! Forgot to print out my soccer lineup. I made it and forgot to print it out. I guess I'll have to remember to do it Friday. So that's what's up. All right, Israel as a combatant. You guys have noticed by now, that's why gas prices are so high. There's war in the Middle East again. You know, sometimes people think, oh, there's war there because it's the Holy Land. No, there's war there because there's oil. If the oil was somewhere else, the war would be there. There's also war there because governments are unstable because of the Islamic culture. We don't have war in Texas over oil because we have an orderly, non-corrupt government here. In a society with a sectarian society, constitutionally, that's full of Christians and Christian influenced people. You know where else there is oil? Over here, Venezuela. We attacked them. Think we're going to be interested, we the United States, in replacing their president if he doesn't have any oil? There's a bunch of banana republic dictators out there. If they ain't got oil, we're not all over them, right? There's a bunch of people out there going prophecy, 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 Gog and Magog. They got oil. Iran is being attacked. We're told. I don't know, I'm not the CIA, because they're a state sponsor of terror. The Islamic Republic of Iran. Did I say Iraq? I mean Iran. Iran is being attacked because they are a state sponsor of terror. The Islamic Republic of Iran. It's in the name that they're Islamic. It's a theocracy. Is it? I don't know. The Ayatollah got killed. Can you have a theocracy without a theocrat? I don't know. I don't know if they've replaced him. So the reason the Middle East is so corrupt is because of all the Islam, okay? And that's why it's corruption in oil, okay? Iran, by the way, wasn't always like that. Oh, and lest we say, it's just corrupt because of Islam, the guy that was there before, the Shah, it wasn't an Islamic theocracy, but that dude was corrupt too. You can have a corrupt monarchy as well. And I guess that guy was religiously Islamic. Israel is involved. Why is Israel attacking Iran? Here's how it works. Lebanon is next to Israel. Iran is near Israel, but Lebanon is next to it. Lebanon has Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, an Islamic terrorist organization. Hamas is funded by Iran. Why does Iran have a bunch of money? Because they got oil. Iran is a big country with lots of resources. So that's what's going on. There's not some kind of prophecy thing going on. But Israel's involved, Seth. shouldn't we always be on Israel's side? 2 Sundays ago, the sermon in church was about the king of Moab, Balak, and the prophet Balaam. You guys are familiar with the story, I hope. Balak, the king of Moab, sees the Israelites marching through on the way to the promised land. He says they're going to come through here and lick everything up like an ox. In other words, they're going to take all the resources. There's millions of them. They're going to pass through my land, and they're going to deplete our resources. And you can fight them with an army, but they just wiped out the last people who tried to fight them. What am I going to do? That's what Balak is thinking. Balak decides to go to the prophet Balaam because Balaam can pronounce a curse from God upon the people. Balak says, Balaam, I know you're a prophet, and if you curse somebody, or if you get God to curse somebody, they'll be cursed, and if you get God to bless somebody, they'll be blessed. Now, what did God say to Abraham? Whoever blesses you, I will bless. Whoever curses you, I will curse. And here you have Abraham's descendants trying to get to the promised land. And the Moabites were descendants of Lot. Lot was Abraham's nephew. These are people who should be partial to the descendants of Abraham. But we know they're not. They're pagans and they're descendants of sin. They were conceived in the wickedness of Lot's daughters. That's biblical. But they should know. They should have some passing familiarity with the descendants of Abraham. So instead of wanting to bless Israel as they came through the land of Moab, Balak wants to curse them. So that's wrong-headed. But we all know how that story works. Balaam's like, I curse them. And Balaam says, I can't. You know, well, why not? Look, God told me to bless them. And Balaam says, what's the opposite I wanted you to do? Balak thinks if he can offer him more money and stuff, that he'll eventually curse the Israelites. And Balaam keeps saying, listen, I can't do it. Because God doesn't want me to curse them. He keeps saying to bless them. Sorry. And that's how that works. People see the Old Testament and they think, if Israel's in a war, we need to support them. As a country, as the United States, whatever country I'm in, they need to support Israel, and I need to support Israel. And it's like, hey, let me ask you a question. Is Moses in charge over there? Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge, right? Is he Moses? Is he Samuel? Is he King David? Is he King Jesus? Benjamin Netanyahu is not even a Christian, right? Because we know all Christians are prophet, priest, and king, right? We're a nation of, or Jesus is prophet, priest, and king. Don't strike me with lightning, Lord. Jesus is prophet, priest, and king. And then Christians are a nation of kings and priests through our brother Jesus, the first fruits of the resurrection. Okay? We talked about our blessed hope last time. So who's supposed to be in charge of Israel? Prophet, priest, and king. Benjamin Netanyahu ain't that. He's just some dude who was elected. Right? By the way, he was elected. Who voted for Jesus? Nobody. If you're the king, you don't get voted on. Israel's a Western-style democracy. Although it feels like that Netanyahu guy's been in charge a long time. Like a Vladimir Putin level of time. Putin, who was also supposedly elected. And we know Jesus is king, right? He's in the line of David. No Christian can deny that. So we look biblically at who's been leading Israel, from Moses to the judges to the kings. And that's not how Israel, the modern nation state of Israel, is run right now. It's just not. We know this. So are we therefore obligated to support them? The answer is no, because that Israel is not Israel. At no time in the Bible, when you're looking at what the Israelites are doing throughout the Old Testament, are they not God's people? They're God's people with God's appointed leaders, not lawyers. God's appointed leaders. The God-appointed leader of Israel is Jesus. He is in the line of David. God told David somebody from his line would be on the throne forever. That's Bible, we can't deny. You cannot be a Bible-believing Christian and say Jesus is not in charge of Israel. Is Jesus in charge of Benjamin Netanyahu's Israel? The answer is no. Now, in a broad sense, Jesus is in charge of everything because all authority is granted to him in heaven and earth. God sets up kings and brings them down. We know God ordained government and God's ordaining everything. We get that from a broad perspective. But Donald Trump's president of the United States, some scared to death guy, is in charge of Iran, and Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge of Israel, not Jesus. So we are not biblically obligated to support the modern nation of Israel. Christians, whom are we? We are biblically, hold on, I'm thinking, we are biblically obligated to support whom? To whom do we owe our support? The people of God, the nation of Israel. That is the church. Pretty sure we're going to win this war because who's going to beat us? We've got pretty good armed forces. We can pretty much whip anybody. Am I saying don't support Israel in this war? Like, no, they're on our side and Iran is bad. They're our ally here. We're doing a good job together of bombing the crap out of bad people. That's fine. And that's how we should treat Israel, guys, like any other country. Is it in the best interest of the United States to ally with these people? Do our interests align? Are they good actors on the side of freedom and whatnot, and personal liberty? Or are they commies, or dictators, or corrupt people, or worst of all, Islamic Republic, an Islamic theocracy? You want to talk about theocracies? I can't think. I mean, there's lots of religions out there. And I can't think of a worse one to be under than Islam, the Islamic theocracy. It seems terrible. So, Christians, we are not obligated to support the modern nation state of Israel. It doesn't mean we can't politically. If it's the right thing we do, if it's the aligns with our country's interests, and if our country's interests are righteous and good and not wicked, then good, let's support it. We can't. We're not obligated to. But as always, we are obligated to support our fellow Christians. Because we, Christians, are the seed of Abraham. It says so in the Bible. Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. As always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved. God bless. Hope to